Sports fans of the Carolinas, this is Kaiser from Under Construction, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of midweek construction. So many of you watched our broadcast on Sunday right after the Carolina Panthers close loss to the New Orleans Saints, in which Jamal and I talked about what went wrong. The offense played really well. Teddy Bridgewater in particular, we saw good performances from DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and of course Robbie Anderson. But the Panthers still came up short, and a lot of the blame was laid at the feet of the defense. In fact, the defense has been the scapegoat for all of the Panthers' woes this season in their 4 losses. And to look at the product on the field, yeah, I guess you could say that. But looking at some stats this morning, I don't think that that's actually the case. Let's go over a few points. First of all, the Panthers' schedule. If you look at the teams that the Panthers defense performed poorly against, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Las Vegas, all of those teams are top 5 offensive teams as far as points per game. Also, and I don't think it really could be expected that the youngest defense in the NFL could really do particularly well against Tom Brady and Drew Brees, 2 of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. And the Panthers historically have never done well against the Saints offense. Sean Payton is a great coach, and I think that he did a great game coaching against us on Sunday. So it's hard for me to fault the defense for not playing well against the Saints and Tom Brady. And Las Vegas offense has shown to be pretty good this season. Also, 3 of those 4 losses came down to potential game-winning drives that stalled. That's unacceptable. And in all of those cases, the defense made a big impact play to get the Panthers the ball back with a chance to win the game, and they just couldn't deliver. I don't really think that that's on the defense. The offense has to make those plays when they count, and it's hard to figure out why. So we did some deep diving into stats here. Now, if we look at offensive and defensive rankings, I know that traditionally it's always been yards per game average. However, I feel like points per game is a better indicator of how good your team is overall, rather than how many yards they allow or yards that they gain per game, because there's a lot of context that gets lost, garbage time yards and things of that nature. And I know that points per game includes defense and offense on both sides of the ball, but considering that defensive touchdowns are actually pretty rare, I think it's a really good indicator of where you stand as far as a team. So looking at those 2 categories, the results might surprise you. The Carolina Panthers defense in points per game is 13th in the league. Now, I know that that's not a world-shattering ranking, but that's around middle of the pack. If you had told any Carolina Panther fan that our defense was middle of the pack, they'd probably laugh you out of the room. Same with media and analysts. No one is sitting around saying, man, the Carolina Panthers defense is middle of the pack. But as far as points allowed per game, they are the middle of the pack. Conversely, on the other side of the ball, points per game per offense, the Carolina Panthers sit all the way down at number 26th in the league in points per game. To put that in perspective, during the Cam Newton-Ron Rivera era, the lowest the Carolina Panthers ever were in that category was 20th, and that was last season when Kyle Allen was the quarterback. Previous to that, they were never any lower than 19th, and they were top 5 3 times in points per game over the last decade. So what's going on here with the offense? Well, the obvious answer is they just cannot score touchdowns in the red zone. Despite being number 8 in the league in third down conversion percentage after Sunday's game against the Saints, they are 28th in the league in red zone touchdown scoring percentage at 52%. That's 6 percentage points lower than they were last year. They just cannot score when they get down in the red zone. And I think I know the reason why. So Teddy Bridgewater is having a great year statistically, actually, so far. And one of the biggest indicators of his performance as far as analysts are concerned is his completion percentage, 72.2%. But I've always felt that completion percentage is one of the most misleading stats when it comes to talking about what a quarterback's actual abilities are. So a few years ago, the NFL started tracking a new stat called air yards, and particularly what that stat covered is the amount of yards that the ball actually travels through the air before it's either caught or dropped or intercepted or whatever. It's a better indicator of how deep your team is trying to go with the football, because as we all know, you can throw a 3-yard slant to Christian McCaffrey and he takes it 80 yards to the house, and the quarterback now has credit for an 83-yard touchdown pass, when clearly that was not the case. So air yards takes a little bit deeper dive into that. And if we look at intended air yards per attempt, out of all 32 qualified NFL quarterbacks, Teddy Bridgewater is number 27, averaging 6.9 yards that the ball actually travels through the air before it's either caught or incomplete. Now, we're only talking a few yards here. Number 1 is Drew Lock, and he's averaging 10.3 yards per throw. So that doesn't really tell the whole story, because I mean, that averages everything: drops, interceptions, pass interference, everything. So let's look at another stat and see if we can get some better context. So a better stat to look at is completed air yards per completion. This is the amount of air that the ball travels through before a receiver catches it and the pass is considered complete. In that category, Teddy Bridgewater is number 27th in the league, averaging 5.5 yards. So that means that every time, on average, Teddy Bridgewater passes the ball, it travels 5 yards through the air before someone catches it. Now, I think you guys see where I'm going with this. 72% completion percentage is outstanding, but you're only throwing the ball 5 yards through the air. We saw this with Cam Newton under the North Turner system, and at the beginning of the season with New England, Cam Newton went from throwing balls 15 yards downfield to throwing balls 5 yards downfield, and his completion percentage shot up. So there's a direct correlation there. But here's where it hurts the Panthers. As you get closer to the red zone, the amount of space you get to work with compresses. So it's easy to throw 5 yards, 3 yards, 6 yards when the defense has a lot more play off the line of scrimmage. But as you get to the red zone, that space compresses. The safeties are going to be able to come down a lot closer to the box and still play coverage without really sacrificing a lot of yardage on the back end. This makes it extremely tough to score when you're only doing 5-yard dink and dunks. You've got to throw to the end zone, and the Panthers have shown that they're not able to do that. As evidence, Russell Wilson is number 4 in the league in completed air yards per attempt, sitting at around 7.3 yards for every pass attempt. The Seahawks offense, number 1 in the league in red zone touchdown scoring percentage. Baker Mayfield is number 3 in this stat, and Cleveland is number 2 in the league in red zone touchdown scoring percentage. I think there has to be something said about, if you have the ability to push the ball when you need to, then you're going to see dividends when it comes in the red zone, and we're just not seeing that with the Carolina Panthers. The fact of the matter is, they're just not holding up their end of the bargain. The offense, statistically, yeah, it looks good, but the Panthers have not been able to score or make a big impact play on offense when they absolutely need it. And that's actually been the difference in these games, not the fact that we let the Saints score 27 points. The Saints are always going to score 27 points. Also, some people might say, well, if Teddy Bridgewater had more time to throw, then he'd be able to throw deeper routes. Well, according to advanced statistics, Teddy Bridgewater is only 27th in the league in times pressure per dropback at around 14%. That means that he's not seeing a whole lot of pressure. And as we saw in the Saints game, he was only sacked one time, and that one time ended up being the one time that you didn't want to be sacked. So what's the fix here? I mean, it's not really Teddy Bridgewater's fault. He's doing everything that he can. He's actually playing really well, probably better than he was playing in Minnesota and New Orleans. It's just that the question is that style of play enough to elevate the Panthers offense to where it needs to be? Also, you cannot discount the fact that Christian McCaffrey has not been playing. I really think we maybe win one of the last 2 games if he's playing. It's a huge difference in throwing 5.5 yards through the air to Mike Davis and 5.5 yards through the air to Christian McCaffrey in space. You'll probably see bigger dividends from having McCaffrey in space. I also think the Panthers got to use their tight ends more. Tight ends tend to be targets that are always right in the middle of medium range. They were never too close or never too far away. I think that's why Cam Newton and Greg Olsen had such a good rapport. That's why tight ends are safety valves, and we're seeing the ascension of tight ends in the NFL today. I'd like to see the Panthers throw to Ian Thomas a lot more than they've been doing. 4 targets a game, I don't think is going to cut it. I really think they have to be able to utilize tight ends in order to score more in the red zone. And clearly we know the Panthers can move the chains. They're 16th in the league in yards per game, and that's playing without Christian McCaffrey right now. I think we'll see that increase when he comes back. It's just that when it counts, that's when they need those yards. If you know that the other team's quarterback is only likely to throw it 5 yards when he drops back, then it's a lot easier to cover those routes than it would be if you thought that he might hit the seams 10 yards downfield, which is something we don't ever really see from the Panthers offense. Seam routes, and it's always out routes or little slants or things of that nature. So I think that, of course, I'm just a fan looking at this stuff. Clearly the Panthers coaching staff and players are looking at this stuff. They know what they got to do. They got to score more in the red zone. They got to take more risk. They can't be doing these little checkdowns and dump offs 3 yards shy of the goal line when they need a touchdown. And I think that's the change that we're going to see in the offense. And I really feel like if the offense ups their game just a little bit, that will help our young defense out a lot more. We've seen good performances from guys like Jeremy Chin and Brian Burns, but even they have their limits. And if you can only muster 16 points against the Chicago Bears, then you're not going to win very many games in the NFL. So go down in the comments, let me know what you guys think of the Carolina Panthers offense. Are they the issue, or is it the defense like we talk about on the show? Does their defense need a better linebacking core and leadership? Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Under Construction every Sunday right after the Panthers are done playing. You guys take care of yourselves and each other.